Okay, our next topic is linings. The first telltale sign of a low quality item is the lack of a lining. So you will see, like on this Old Navy skirt, um, there just isn't a lining on the inside. There is just the serged edge of the item and no lining at all. So also on this black and pink skirt that you guys can pass around, there's no lining. So usually when I see this, I just immediately pass because that is a sign of a low quality item. When the lining is hanging down longer than the skirt or pants, it could mean that it just wasn't made well and the lining is, not hanging correctly, or it's come loose, and either way, that's not going to be good because you don't want to sell it like that, and it's really not worth having it repaired. You know, taking to an alterations place and having it fixed. It's just not worth it. So, in this picture here, looks to me like it's just come loose. So I would just pass on that item. Um, yeah. So there's another example of an item that doesn't look good there. Now, sometimes you're going to see a design element that is at the edge of a hem of a skirt. And like in this picture, this is it's a ruffle or a detail that it's supposed to look like that. You can tell that it's well tailored. The hem edge is straight. Um, this is not a lining. This is just a detail on a skirt that is supposed to be there. So look closely. Also, if a lining is puckered, it that's an indication that it's low quality. I've got this skirt here, this olive colored skirt that you can see the lining is just there it is. It's just very low quality because it's the fabric just feels cheap, and you can just I mean you can hear how cheap it is. So this is a very low quality lining, and the puckering is like right here where these threads are. That indicates low quality. So another telltale sign there. Um, Now, exposed zippers. The cheapest way to add a zipper to an item is called an exposed zipper. And we're going to go over this in the next section, showing you high quality items. But when you see a zipper like this, where you can see the whole thing, um, unless it's there on purpose as a design element, that indicates cheap quality. We'll go over that some more in just a minute. I'll show you a good example. Another thing that indicates low quality is fabric bleeds. You can see in this picture that, again, that's a Burberry example, a Burberry scarf. The one on the right is real, the one on the left is fake, but you can see the red is what we call fabric bleed, meaning that it's just cheap fabric. The colors are not staying separate. So when you see this in a garment, sometimes this is from washing where the fabric, the color has just bled, but in most cases it's just cheap quality fabric. So if there are multiple colors in a garment, they should stay separate. They should not bleed into each other like this. Okay, now we're going to look at the opposite signs of an expensive item. And I've got a lot of samples here to show you, you know, what high quality looks like. So first of all, finished seams. You're going to have no raw edges. You can't see where the fabric was cut. Everything is tucked in nicely and sewn down, and in some cases you can't see the seam at all. So this is a great example here in this picture. We've got double stitching here, which makes it even stronger, and You see no raw edges of fabric. There's all this the stitching is uniform. You see all these are just about the same size. This is a very strong seam. It's reinforced with double stitching, and nothing is loose, nothing is crooked. Now this is a bound seam. You can see here that the material, they've actually added extra material here along this seam to finish it out. This is an example of high quality. It's neatly finished. There's contrasting binding material. The stitches are straight and uniform, and there's no loose threads. So that is very neatly done and very well made. This a bound seam like this with extra fabric, this takes time. You're not going to normally see this on Walmart or Target brand items or Cato or Fashion Bug or any of those cheap brands, just because it takes more material. You see how small these stitches are? That takes more thread, more time on the machine, more time to pay the person to do it. So this is an example of something you would see on a high quality item. Now let's go back to the hem allowance. A well-made garment has a around 2 inch hem allowance. So I have several skirts here that I'm going to show you the hem allowance, and again we can pass these around. On this Talbot skirt, this is actually, several things about this are very high quality. You can see the lining is sewn down at the top. It's sewn down all the way around, and this is 100% cotton, but it's very thick and soft. And when you are going through the racks at Goodwill or wherever, you can feel the difference between this skirt and this really cheap one. They're both made of cotton, but they feel completely different. And this one has about a 2 inch hem allowance, so it could be let down if needed. It has the serged edges on the inner seams, but it has enough qualities about it to make it high quality. So this here really doesn't matter. So again, high quality items will have a 2 inch hem allowance. It allows the garment to be altered, and this is very important to tall women, or if just your legs or torso is long in proportion to your body and you have to let things out. Here's another skirt with, this one is Ann Taylor Loft. It has a very nicely done lining on the inside there. It's sewn down all around the back, including the kick pleat in the back. And we've got the hem allowance here that is about 2 inches. If we go back to this cheaply made Walmart skirt, here it is. This has like no hem. It has like not even 1/4 of an inch. So you can tell right away this is a cheap item because it has the lining, but it's only secured by a couple of threads, and it's like barely attached. That could come apart very easily. Now the patterns on this one don't match up, but it's because of the way the skirt's made. This is called a gored skirt. There's extra triangles put in, so that's not a flaw in the fabric matchup. That's just the way this is made, the style. But you can see here there's just no hem allowance. The lining is cheap and barely attached. We showed how it pulls apart at the seams. So this is a very cheap one. And if we go over here to this linen skirt, this is Tahari. That's a better brand. I wouldn't say it's high fashion. It's just better than. It's like up there with Brooks Brothers or Eileen Fisher. And if we look at the hem allowance here, we see not only a nice hem, but it is finished off with this this material here that covers where the fabric was cut. So that has a nice finishing treatment on it, as well as a nice hem allowance, and the zipper. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, high quality brands. You want to make sure that the patterns match up. So what the objective is for these Burberry, for example, that's just the most well-known plaid, so I keep picking that one. But they want the garment to look like one piece of fabric. So they don't want you to see where the seams are. So you can see here, there's a seam right here, and they have really matched up everything exactly along this seam line so that it does look like one piece of fabric. This is a very well made garment. So look for that, especially on plaids. If we go back here to the Tahari skirt, again, you're going to, if you look at it closely along the hemline, you'll see that this floral pattern matches up pretty well. It's just much more obvious with plaids when it's a fake or when it's a cheaply made item because the plaids just don't match up at all. Okay, now we're going to look at the camel hair coat for the example of this. Neat, secure, reinforced seams. You can't even see where the edges of this fabric are. You can't see the edges of the lining or of the camel hair itself. And then they have this extra piece of fabric here. So everything is hidden. This, when you see this, you know you've got a nice, well-made garment that's probably expensive because this takes a lot of time to tuck everything under like this. It has to be sewn and then turned inside out, and this takes a lot of time. So whenever I see this kind of seam on a blazer, skirt, pants, whatever, I look further because this is very high quality. Okay, load-bearing seams are under constant tension, which means these are your shoulder seams, side seams, crotch seams in pants, back seams in blazers and jackets, and hems on heavier fabrics that are hanging. They're called load-bearing seams because there's, like when you're walking and swinging your arms, that seam there is going to be taking under tension all the time. Crotch seams in pants when you're sitting and standing and walking, they need to be strong and reinforced so that they don't come apart and then you have a problem. So these load-bearing seams, they're definitely one you want to do that pull test on to see if you can see the stitching underneath, because if they're not well made, they're going to come apart easily. Bust darts. This is a tailoring detail. Items like shirts, blouses, jackets, and non-stretchy dresses and tops that are well tailored will have bust darts on the front under the bust, and this just helps the garment fit better. They pull in the bottom of the item to your waist and make sure that the fabric underneath the bust line does not bulge or hang. So this is a when you see this, you'll see it in like cottons and linen. It just makes the item fit better, and the bust is more accentuated. When you see a seam down the back of blazers and jackets, that is a sign of a high quality item. Your back is not flat, so a square piece of fabric will never look as good as multiple pieces that follow the curve of your back. So when we look at the camel hair blazer, we see that there is a seam down the back, and that's another sign to look for. So there's another close-up of that back seam. Linings, they're there for a reason. They give a garment a neater finish on the inside by hiding and protecting what's on the inside. They also add an extra layer of warmth and protect the garment from body oils, sweat, that kind of thing. I want to go back to this Madewell skirt while we're talking about linings, and we can look at this and see that this lining is just immaculately put in here. It's sewn in all across the hem, so it's like the outer shell and the lining are one piece. You can't even see where they separate because they don't. It's all sewn together just very well. So this is a really nice garment. In fact, I really didn't want to put this in my sample kit because I know how much it can sell for, but I can't only bring just crappy stuff to show you. I have to show you the good things too. So this skirt has so much going for it. It's buffalo plaid, it's wool, it's this brand called Madewell, which is pretty high end. It's got a leather strip here around the top. It has a hidden zipper. This is just a great example of so many different aspects of high quality clothing. Okay, linings also allow you to slip more easily into the garment so it goes on and off better, which reduces tension. So, I mean, if you think about when you're putting on a coat or a jacket that has a lining in it, it just goes on and off very easily. So, that's by design. For items like fitted skirts, a lining also greatly improves fit because it prevents the outer fabric from clinging to your thighs and creates a more streamlined silhouette. So I never buy a skirt for resale, a finer skirt like a wool skirt, unless it's lined. You know, Chico's, those kind of things are different. Eileen Fisher, Chico's, those stretchy kind of material, those aren't going to come with a lining. I'm talking about things made from wool or silk or a wool blend that are like for career wear. Okay, we are going to stop this video here and then get into the next one talking about details.